Hi, this is Diane Lovetobake on YouTube. And what I'm making today are Italian white wheat rolls. Now, if you don't want to make rolls, you can certainly just make yourself a nice loaf of bread out of this recipe as well. If you're looking for additional bread recipes, especially Italian ones, I have several. I have crusty rolls, I have ciabatta bread, I have so many different types of breads, whether they're using all-purpose flour, bread flours, high gluten flours, a lot of bagel recipes. But I want to start doing a lot of breads for my family with white whole wheat. As well as whole wheat too. So I'm, really enjoying how they've been turning out. And I'm going to give you the recipe right at the start because I no longer put them on my underneath below the video. You will need a starter for these rolls or bread or a biga. And you will need to use 1 1/3 cups of water, and I usually have it around about 110 degrees Fahrenheit. I heat it in my microwave. You'll need 1 1/8 cup of your all-purpose flour. You'll need 3/4 of a cup, and I used my white wheat flour. But if you don't want to use the white wheat, go ahead and use your wheat flour. You can use that too. That's 3/4 of a cup. Then put a 1/4 teaspoon of yeast. And I went ahead and made my starter in my bread maker. On the dough cycle, what I did was, and I generally do, is I put all those ingredients in, and then I turn on my bread maker for about 3 to 4 minutes. And then just make sure that it's combined well, and then I shut it off. Now, I usually let it stay overnight, or at least about 12 hours. Yet I have made these rolls within 4 hours, but I will tell you they'll come out so much better if you wait overnight, that 10 or 12 hours. So that's really the hardest thing to do in this recipe, is to make the starter to it. Now, once that the starter and the biga's done, and I waited, mine was about 12 hours on this particular one I'm showing you today. Then I went ahead and I put 1 cup of all-purpose flour, 1 tablespoon of granulated sugar. I also put in 1 tablespoon of the Vital Wheat gluten for these rolls. It really makes such a difference. That was 1 tablespoon. You can get different companies, make different, different brands and that kind of thing. This is the one that I tend to buy, but it is your wheat gluten. That was 1 tablespoon that I put in. Then 1 1/2 teaspoons of salt, 1 3/4 teaspoon of active dry yeast. And I did it in my bread maker on the dough cycle. And I would follow the directions on your maker, when to put your water in, when to put your dry ingredients, because they're all different, But that's how you make your starter in the recipe I gave you. Once again, to start your starter, you need 1 1/3 cup water at 110, 1 1/8 cup of all-purpose flour, 3/4 of a cup I used of white wheat flour, but you can use your wheat flour, 1/4 of a teaspoon of active dry yeast, and again, I just let it mix in my machine for about 3 or 4 minutes. I shut it down, and then I wait anywhere from 10 to 12 hours to make the dough. And again, I'm going to repeat that. 1 cup of all-purpose flour, 1 tablespoon of granulated sugar, 1 tablespoon of your Vital wheat gluten, 1.5 teaspoons of salt, and 1 3/4 teaspoon of dry active yeast. And you will then, I'm going to put a little flour on the top of my countertop. You will get this dough out of it. Now the dough, this is only half, so you're going to get double this amount. It is a sticky dough, so it's going to stick to your hands a little bit, but don't, you don't want to put a lot of flour, but this is half of a batch, this right here. They're really exceedingly very light. They're not real dense, heavy dough. And what I like to do is, of course, you need a grease pan, cookie sheet, whatever. Use your parchment paper if you're so inclined. I like to cut my rolls and measure them so they all come out equal. So when I'm baking them, I get I think a better product out of it. And on these particular rolls, I use about 2.5 ounces of dough to make a roll. So that's exactly 2.5. How about that? And everybody forms their rolls differently. I just make a disc out of it, like that, a round disc. And then I just start pinching all the ends together, all the way around in the circle, like that. Bring it to like a little point, and then I just push that point down, and then I finish rolling them in my hands. There are several ways, of course, to form your rolls, but this is how I like to do them. Now, they are going to spread out when they bake, so give them some room. Give them about, 2.5 inches, that kind of thing. Let's roll and cut another one. 2.5 again. Wow, that's amazing. That doesn't usually happen. But again, I just make a flat disc and then just start pinching all the way around, bringing it all together to the center. If it sticks to your hands, just put a little bit of flour on your fingertips, and then I bring it to a little bit of a point. I press that in, and then just bring it all the way around and roll it in the palms of my hand. But of course, you do it your way. I'm sure you've got a great way or a better way of doing it. So, follow through with that, okay? Now, you can take an egg wash and egg wash them. And you can put, your sesame seeds on them, or your poppy seeds, or whatever type of topping you want to put on them. The individual that will be eating these cannot have seeds, so I'm leaving out seeds on these today. Now, what I also like to do is you need to cover them, and I either use a piece of plastic wrap and I just lightly spray it with an oil spray and put it on top, or I use a linen towel or kitchen terry towel to put over the top. Now, you'll want to put these in a warm place in your kitchen, and it could take 45 minutes, it could take an hour, it could take, I've had days it takes an hour and a half. It really depends on the temperature of my kitchen. But you do want to wait for these rolls to double in size. Now, if you don't want to put your egg wash or your egg white wash, or if you want to coat them with milk or something like that, or butter, you can do that after they've risen too, but I wanted to show you what it looks like. So we're just going to set this aside for the moment, cover it up with my towel so it doesn't dry out, and then I'm going to rinse my hands here, and I want to show you the finished product. Okay, now again, these can be made into a nice large loaf of bread. You don't want to make the rolls, but this is how they turn out. They really come up beautiful. And you can see on these rolls, these are still a little bit warm from the oven, how large they get. This was 2.5 ounces. But it will have a nice golden brown on the bottom. I like my rolls kind of crispy. If you don't want them to be, you know, real dark, take them out a little bit earlier. Now you're going to bake them at 425 minutes, and they could take you anywhere from 12 to 15 minutes, okay? And I actually get 10 rolls out of them. Out of this recipe, and it's depending on the size. Of course, if you want to make them smaller, you're going to get more. If you want to make them bigger, you're going to get less. So just watch your timing, though. You know, especially if you're making them a lot smaller, because they might come up quicker for you too. Who knows? So, but anyway, it has a nice semi-soft top, a nice crispy bottom, and I always check my rolls when I'm ready to take them out. If I knock on them and you hear a hollow sound, that's a good indication that they're properly baked. Now let me cut into this to show you what the roll on the inside looks like. And you really, when you do cut into it, then you'll really see that you did use whole wheat. Again, I used white whole wheat, but you can use a regular wheat if you want. Well, anyway, I'm just going to squeeze on it, and I don't know if you can see how light and how delicate. This roll will have a bit of a chew to it. And as far as the flake goes, I don't know if you can see that there are all these little holes in here, but that makes it to be very light and not heavy or real dense. It just melts in your mouth when you eat it. And again, I don't know if you can see the spring back on it. You know, the elasticity on this roll. It's just absolutely, and it pops right back. Oh, what a great tasting roll. And again, you can top them with your sesame seeds or that kind of thing. It's a relatively easy recipe to make. The hardest part is waiting for them because you're, you know, doing your starter the night before. But if you do try this recipe and you like it, well, leave a comment because I'd like to hear from you. And I always remind everybody to please watch me solely on YouTube. That's another reason why I don't list the recipe anymore, because it's so frustrating when people take your work and put them on other sites and claim them theirs, and when you folks write to me, I can't answer you, and it's pretty frustrating, and I'm certainly not alone on that. But anyway, I really appreciate you watching Diane Lovetobake solely on YouTube. If you're so inclined and you'd like to subscribe, boy, I'd appreciate it, or give me a like or ring the bell. But give this recipe a try. And again, if you're looking for other bread recipes or rolls or hoagie rolls, well, out of 650 videos, I've got lots of good bread and roll recipes as well as pizza doughs on there that, you know what, I had fun doing it, and my family and friends have enjoyed them when I have made them. So I hope you'll give them a try too. So again, thank you for watching Diane Lovetobake on YouTube. Please stay safe and stay well. See you soon.